My name is Brian Benson with James Bean Estate Sales in Oklahoma City, and today I'm here to tell you how you can tell whether your Louis Vuitton is real or fake. Now, when we get Louis Vuitton at the estate sales, there's three different ways or three different things I look for when we're trying to verify whether it's real or not. The first thing I look for is whether it has another company's tag on it. And this is primarily more for older Louis Vuitton, but it used to be that a lot of Louis Vuitton might have been sold by other high-end retailers. So you might find a tag that might say Saks Fifth Avenue. It might either be a gold embossed tag that's stamped onto the luggage, or it might be a little metal tag that's been attached to the luggage, but it might say Saks Fifth Avenue. And when you see that tag, you're pretty much going to be confident that's going to be a real piece, unless you can tell that it's been removed and reattached. That's probably going to be a real piece because Saks obviously doesn't sell fake Louis Vuitton luggage, and that's also not a detail that a counterfeiter is going to stick on a bag. Also, in one case, we ran across a wallet that said Air France, and what we found out through researching it was a wallet that was given away by Air France. When you took a flight on the Concorde, you got a free Louis Vuitton wallet. And we know that obviously since Air France wouldn't be giving away fake Louis Vuitton, the Air France stamp inside of it next to Louis Vuitton kind of authenticated the fact that we knew that was going to be real. Second thing we look for is what we call the French luggage pieces. And this is a little confusing for a lot of people because there was a company that was called the French Luggage Company. He was in California, and it was started by a guy named Clarence French. And he made luggage from the 40s up until they closed in the 2000s. But between the late 60s to the early 90s, he also had the contract to manufacture luggage for Louis Vuitton. Which got very confusing because it's a French luggage. So what you will sometimes see is you will see purses or luggage which will be stamped it will say Louis Vuitton, made under special license to the French Luggage Company, California, USA. And when we see those tags, and usually they're tagged, and there's several different styles of tags that they use, they will be inside the bag. But when we see those, we know those are always going to be authentic unless somebody pulled one out and glued it into a fake bag. But we know those are going to be real because that's also not a detail that the people who counterfeited them over China. That's not a detail that they faked either. And an interesting thing about the French luggage pieces are, whereas like this piece is made by the French Luggage Company and this piece is made by the Louis Vuitton Company, and they're identical, and the French Luggage Company just used a Louis Vuitton style. On some of the other pieces, they took their own designs and used Louis Vuitton fabrics and leathers on them. So like this piece is called a Pullman style. This was only manufactured by the French Luggage Company in California. This wasn't actually manufactured specifically through Louis Vuitton. And you will see this piece, you'll also see this piece in other fabrics that were manufactured by the French Luggage Company that weren't officially Louis Vuitton. So you can still get this piece in other fabrics, so you're still going to have the same quality as a Louis Vuitton item. This is not going to be a Louis Vuitton item, but it was made in the same company right next, really literally right on the assembly line with the Louis Vuitton pieces. And where that kind of comes in handy is like on this piece, which is missing, it should have a little tag here that will snip right here. It's also missing the key, and then there's also it needs a little bolt right here. Is you can get on eBay and you can buy the French luggage pieces, usually really cheap, sometimes $20, $30, and you can take the pieces off of those for repair, to repair your Louis Vuitton bags. And actually, that's kind of a way you can actually get the parts for it that aren't really available anymore, as you scavenge them off the French luggage pieces. And since most people don't know that French Luggage Company manufacture those pieces, you can get a really good deal on some luggage if you look around. Now, the third thing you have to look for when you're looking at Louis Vuitton bags, assuming it's not a French luggage piece, and assuming it's not a piece that has a high-end retailer tag on it, then you really have to be very careful. And those are the ones I'm going to show you how you can tell the difference on. And I'm going to start, we can show you this bag right here. What you look for when you're looking for Louis Vuitton is Louis Vuitton manufacturing. It's not that the stuff is overpriced, it's that the stuff is extremely, very detailedly made. And what I mean by that is Every piece will be exactly aligned the exact same way on every single bag. So when you look at this, you always want to see that it's centered, but not only is it centered, you go over to the edges and you'll see how this piece and this star in the same line, there's the exact same amount that is tucked underneath the trim on every single, on this row. And if you go all the way up the rows, all the way around, they exactly center this piece. And not only do they exactly center that piece, when you come around to this side, you're going to see the exact same thing again. It's going to be exactly centered on that piece. It'll be exactly centered on the end pieces. Upside down, it will be exactly centered. This is exactly centered between up here and also this way. So, and that's a detail you always want to look for on Louis Vuitton is they don't just randomly get the fabric. They don't just randomly like stick it on a bag and just let it go. Every single piece on every single bag will be the exact same spot on every single bag. And to give you an example of this, we're going to look at these two bags. These are two identical bags. These are both keep all 50s. And when we say 50 is actually the measurement. So when you see the number and the titles, 50 is going to usually mean the widest measurement, or the number is going to be the widest measurement. So which is going to be, like on this bag, 50, which stands for 50 centimeters. They also make this bag in other sizes that will be bigger, and they make larger and smaller. But you'll notice that when you're looking all the way across, these logos, they're not just randomly thrown on a bag. They are straight across these two bags, because these two bags, this pattern is put on here in the exact same place on every single bag. There's no exceptions to that. If they put the LV on this bag, every single time you see this identical size bag, that LV will be in the exact same spot. And this is a perfect example. See on this bag, we start up here with the two round circles, and it's exactly aligned all the way down the zipper, and it ends at two other circles. We go to this bag. Once again, we have the two circles. It's exactly lined all the way down and ends at two more circles. And every size will have a different characteristics. The 60 has the LVs in the very center, so it might not end at circles. But every 50, when you look at a 50, they will always be identical bag to bag. There will never be an exception where one bag will have a different pattern on it, or the patterns will start or stop at a different spot. Over here on the Samir, this is also a good example of how precise they are. You'll notice that this is the flap that flaps over on top of this. See how it exactly goes down the center with the LVs? Also, see where this LV is? We peel that LV, and there's an LV exactly underneath that LV. It exactly lines up. When you put this flap over, it will line up where the top of this LV tops that LV. It will line up all the way around. When you flip the bag over on the side, you will see, because this is two separate saddlebags. This is actually kind of what we call it's a saddlebag style. These LVs will, all the way across, will line up. Also, in the individual bags, they'll be exactly right down the center. And that's a characteristic of the Louis Vuitton bag. They're very precise. They're always the same every single time, no exceptions. And I cannot stress that enough. When we look at the little cruiser bag, once again, what we're looking for, these LVs, which are right above the line, you go all the way around the bag, they will not waver. They're not going to be, wavy. They're not going to be higher on one side than they are the other. When we get to the seams will exactly be however much is on one side. There'll always be a mirror on the other side. You look at the bottom of the bag, and once again, the LVs are exactly lined in the center this way, also side to side. Every single bag, I cannot stress that enough, every single bag is done the exact same way every time. When you get to the damier pattern, it's a little harder to tell because obviously there's less details to look. But these little Louis Vuitton squares here, you will also, every single bag will be exactly this one. There's 3 squares up here, and right here where it's 2, but if you go to the back side, 3 squares, 2 squares. You look at the bottom, the LVs are exactly aligned and centered on every time. You look at the seams. Once again, everything's perfectly straight up and down. On the pigase, once again, you follow this seam. This is where the zipper is, where this is a pocket. This pocket, where these seams are, this is two different pieces of canvas, but it still exactly follows all the way around. So where these little pieces are cut out, they catch on the other side, so that it makes a complete pattern all the way around. That's the attention to detail you want to see on every single piece of Louis Vuitton. On the sides, you'll see the seams. Everything always exactly lines up. Always exactly centered. I mean, everything's very precise. You can look on you can sit down for an hour and pick this piece apart, and you're not going to find variations where they didn't line up a logo in the right spot. Now I'm going to show you some fakes, and this is kind of what I'm showing you so you can see by comparison. When we look at this bag, if you look over to the corners, don't pay attention to the center. Go to the corners, go from this row all the way over to this row, and you can see it doesn't line up. It doesn't have the exact same space on each side. Also, when we do this and look at the top, it doesn't bookmark all along the zipper, where if this was a real bag, these would be the same logos on each side, because that's how precise Louis Vuitton is. This one doesn't have that. You look at the sides, and they're not lined up side to side like a real bag would be. It's slightly offset. This is the sign of a cheap bag. And you have to realize, most of the bags you're going to see are going to be cheap bags, because there's dozens or hundreds of manufacturers who make the fake products all over China and all over South Asia. When they make them, there's no consistency. They're basically just copying the patterns, slapping on a bag, and selling them off. They sell for $50, over there, $30 to $50. Here, $50 to $100. And so they're not putting any effort into them. They don't really care if they match up or not. There are some fakes, which are called super fakes, which are much more expensive, which are very much harder to tell, but we're not really going to run into those a lot, because no one's going to spend $500 to $1,000 on a fake, coming from the manufacturer in China, so you don't really see the so-called super fakes that people talk about. Usually all of these are almost always going to be the low-end, cheap, basically low-quality fakes. On this bag, this is another example. It doesn't line up. You look over here, come across here, and it's not an exact bookmark. It doesn't have the same thing on both sides. You look at the seams over here on the sides. Once again, the seam should be the exact same detail on this side as it is this side. And also, that plus it has a very cheap feel. Look at the inside and see where the threading, the stitching is just very sloppily done. Always a good sign that this is going to be a fake bag. When we look at this piece, they did a very good job getting this centered, and it actually looks like it could be real, except when you turn it this way and you realize that the center of the Louis Vuitton logo, turn it this way and it's moved over this way. Also, on most Louis Vuitton bags, they're usually pretty careful about not getting the logo split on a seam. Also, this would have been exactly centered up and down. And also, when we look at this, this has what is a cheap vinyl self-repairing zipper. Almost every Louis Vuitton piece will have a metal zipper instead of this little cheap zipper. And when you look inside, obviously the stitching looks like it's almost been done by your feet. When we look at this piece, used to be the rule 10 years ago. We always said the nice thing about hard side luggage is nobody ever faked it. Well, they actually fake it now. This is a piece I saw online. I bought it because I knew it was going to be fake, but I had never seen a fake hard side before, so I wanted to see it up close and personal. And when we looked at this piece, it's the same problems with it. If you look, you will notice that the patterns are crooked. See up here, the star logo, which is really close to the edge. By the time it gets all the way over here, you have other logos coming into it. So it's really easy to tell that, they didn't get this straight. Also, this vinyl is a thinner vinyl. It's almost like a cheap tablecloth versus the heavy-duty vinyls, which are on the other Louis Vuittons. The hardware, is really cheap. This was a $200 fake direct from China. And then when you open it up, the quality, when you look at it, the quality is absolutely not there at all. I've seen these where people actually tried to use them, took them on the airport, and the bags busted open, and they clothes went everywhere. I mean, believe it or not, that actually does happen. And this kind of shows you some of the detailing that they send with the bags. They send you a fake dust bag. This one came with a fake receipt, actually with my name on it, which was very nice. They actually put my name on my own fake receipt. Other fake little detail cards and stuff, and fake luggage tag. So they do try to fake them. They just, the fakes never ever look the same quality as the real ones. And now I'm going to talk to you about what we call the myths of Louis Vuitton. Or finally, what I also want to talk to you about is what we call the Louis Vuitton myths. There's lots and lots of myths that go around about Louis Vuitton that people get kind of confused about, and to the point they've almost become truths to most people, but they don't really technically exist. First myth I want to talk about is that Louis Vuitton will authenticate bags for you. They absolutely do not do that. You can take your bag into a Louis Vuitton store. You might get a salesperson who will be nice enough to look at it and tell you within their opinion that they think it's real, but they're never going to. There's no authentication process. They will not send you, put anything in writing. They will not do anything like that. The best you're ever going to get as a salesperson. Part of this is what we call the liability, because they're not going to authenticate, a bag, my Speedy bag, and then let you take that letter, attach it to this fake bag over here. They're not going to let someone do that. So, like I said, Louis Vuitton does not authenticate anything. So if someone tells you they took it to Louis Vuitton and had it authenticated, they're totally lying. Also, next thing is about what we call the, Louis Vuitton can repair any bag. They mostly can repair any bag, particularly if the bag's less than 20 years old. But once you start getting into the bags, because you have to realize some of these bags up here are 40, 50 years old. So once they start getting that old, Louis Vuitton in their manufacturing will eventually run out of pieces for them, which is why I was talking about like this French luggage piece that they never manufactured. To get pieces for it, you have to sometimes scavenge off of other French luggage pieces. Also, I've had a purse at one of these estate sales once that that when we had it, we took it in and they no longer made the length of zipper that it fit, so they couldn't repair that particular purse. Another thing, what we call Louis Vuitton myth, is that Louis Vuitton never, ever, ever discounts. They never offer anything wholesale. They never offer second. I cannot tell you how many times over the years people have told me that they can get me a deal on Louis Vuitton because they have a friend who can get the stuff wholesale, or they can buy factory seconds. And total bull. Louis Vuitton what they do is when they decide to discontinue a bag, they offer that bag on their website until that bag sells. They never discount it. There's never a Christmas sale. There's never an end of season sale. They don't let Neiman Marcus or Saks discount their products either. You're never going to get a discount on that bag. That bag will always be that price. The only way you get a discount is you have to buy it secondhand from somebody. Another, what we call Louis Vuitton myth, is people think that every bag has a date code. And the date codes, which is why I don't use date codes when we're talking authenticating bags, is bags before 1990 didn't have date codes. I think the date codes started appearing in the early 90s. They didn't appear in every bag. They slowly introduced it onto the bags. The problem with the date codes is that when they're counterfeited, the counterfeiters also counterfeit the date code. So you can't go by it having a date code as being authentic. Also, because the older bags, like some of these French pieces, don't have date codes, you can't look at them and say, oh, because they don't have one, that is fake. And some of the date codes are really hard to find spots. You can't always find them. Sometimes they're really hidden. So if you don't know where to look, you're not going to find them. So I never go by date codes. It's kind of, you're going to miss it, or you're going to screw up if you try to go by a date code. Also, used to be one of our ways that we would check it is we always used to look for the country of origin. Used to be the rule was you look for any country other than France to authenticate the fact it was real, because Louis Vuitton manufactures in France, but they also manufacture in the USA. They manufacture all over Europe. So, if you weren't bad at geography and you never thought geography would come in handy, it did come in handy. You need to know where the European countries are, or what the European countries are. So when you see Italy, Spain, and England, you know that those used to be symptoms of, we would always assume those were real. But over the last few years, they've started faking those too. When we were in Thailand, looking at all the fakes over there, we started seeing fakes that actually said made in Spain, made in Italy. So now, whereas it used to be, we'd look at it and we felt confident that you could buy it. Now we don't look at that anymore. So just because it says made in Spain or Italy, it can still be fake. Other thing we look at is the tags. A lot of the tags, if you go to a Louis Vuitton store, and I always say you should go. You don't have to feel pressure. 99% of the people who go to a Louis Vuitton store don't buy anything anyway. They're just there looking, so you can feel free to go in and look. When you go in, you're going to know something very common is they never have tags attached. There's not going to be any string tags or anything attached to the bags. That's a big no-no with them. So when you see listings or you go to a fair or something and there's a string tag with the Louis Vuitton tag attached, that's always a symptom or always a sign that that's going to be fake. Also, when they have plastic wrapped handles, that's always a fake. Louis Vuitton doesn't wrap them like that. So we always say, don't look for attached tags. The other thing, this is something that most people, even people who have Louis Vuitton don't know, is you can't go by the split logo as far as it's real or not. It used to be, on most bags, Louis Vuitton takes very good attention to never cover up or split the LV logo. And on most bags, you're never going to find where they're going to stitch across it and hide part of the logo. But that's not the case on every bag. There are some bags like the dog carrier that has it has a zipper right through the middle of it. There's several other bags that are examples where there's just no way logistically they could line the bag up without doing it. So although most bags you're going to see, aren't going to have it, if you do see one, I wouldn't immediately discount it, but you want to take extra care to make sure, because like I said on the fakes, the fakes, they'll put them anywhere. So on the fakes, you want to be extra careful if you do see a split logo, but it doesn't mean that it's not real. Other thing we talked about is zippers. Newer bags will say LV on the zipper, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be authentic. Obviously when they counterfeit them, they'll counterfeit the zippers. But vintage bags, and some of these up here have it, you'll see makers on the zippers. The zippers should always be metal. They're never going to be the little cheap plastic zippers. They're always going to be metal. Even, on the little pieces like this, these are total metal zippers. Inside the bags will be metal zippers. The only bag up here that doesn't have all metal zippers is the Luggage, which on the inside lining, which is only to service the insides of it, there is a secondary zipper that's not metal. But on older bags, you're going to see zippers that don't see LV, and the different manufacturers like Talon, Eclair, CNC, YKK. And when you see those zippers, you shouldn't immediately think that it's fake, just because, in the 70s and 80s, they didn't have the concept of putting the LV on the little logo thing. It wasn't the thing that they did. Also, things to not be afraid of is if you see upside down logos. I can't tell you how many times people will say, oh, that's got to be a fake because the logos are upside down on it. And actually, most round bags that Louis Vuitton makes, particularly the Zippies or the Speedies, the Keepalls, and the Papillon bags, usually they're made of one piece that wrap all the way around. This one is a perfect example when you look at it. It's one piece, it goes all the way around, and there's no seams. And because there's no seams, for one side to be right side up, the other side has to be upside down because when it wraps. Now, not all of them will be that way. The two Keepalls over here are split. So when you flip them upside down in the middle, they have a split piece of leather, and you can see how these are exactly lined up. But it allows both sides to be upright. So sometimes they will be upright, but when you see upside down, you shouldn't panic. Also, Keepall, or the Simmer is a perfect example. This is a one piece material. So one side is upside, or right side up. One side will obviously be upside down. You will note when it is upside down, this part's upside down. They also made this part upside down so it coordinated with it. Then also, myths are that Louis Vuitton bags have serial numbers. They do not have serial numbers. The only ones that have serial numbers are the hard side cases, and they had serial numbers even back into the 20s, where you supposedly could contact Louis Vuitton and find out who used to own the suitcases, but now with privacy laws, they don't give that information out. But only the hard side suitcases will actually have a serial number. All of these, at best will have a date code, but the date code's not a serial number because every bag manufactured during that date of that package will have the exact same number. All right, so those are some of what we call the myths when we talk about Louis Vuitton. So if you're looking to buy Louis Vuitton, these are kind of some of the tips I would tell you to use. First of all, if you are going to buy new Louis Vuitton, or obviously anything you buy in the store is going to be real. Also, if you're looking to buy used Louis Vuitton, because a lot of times people look at this as a great way to save money. What you have to realize is a lot of times the cheaper Louis Vuitton items don't get any cheaper secondhand. Particularly what I would say the stuff that's under $300 or $400, like the little bitty tiny, like these pieces. If you get on eBay and you look this up on the Louis Vuitton website and you get on eBay, you're going to pay almost full retail on eBay, so you might as well just buy it at the store. You're not really going to save any money. Where you save money is sometimes on the larger items you can save some money on. If you do decide to buy on eBay, or if you buy from anybody, what I always say is never trust anybody. I cannot tell you how many times at an estate sale, they'll have a fake Louis Vuitton bag. I'm looking at it. The homeowner will come in and swear to me that it's real, that that they bought it from the Louis Vuitton store, and I'm looking at it knowing that they didn't. And the more I ask them questions about the bag, the more they backpedal, and they always admit that they bought it from flea market. People lie. They lie to us. So never take someone else's word for it. Someone could be honest and think it's real, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be real. So you always want to use your best judgment. What I do, even like at the estate sales, everybody has a smartphone. Pick up that smartphone, get on eBay. If you know that it's a keep all 50, type in keep on 50s. Look at 10 or 15 different auctions, and like I said, you can go, you look at the bag you're looking at buying, you look at the ones for sale on eBay. Those logos will be in the exact same space place on every single bag. So if you can see that your bag matches what everybody else's bags looks like, you know that you probably got a really good bag. If you're looking at your bag and the logos aren't in the same space, then you need to be worried because most likely you're looking at a fake. Other nice thing about when you buy used, obviously you can save money on some bags. Ironically, this is kind of a funny bag because these things retail for about $4,000 on eBay. Sometimes you can find them down to, in different patterns, down to $500, but $500 to $1,500 is kind of normal. What's interesting about these bags is a lot of people are selling them because they're not technically carry-on compliant anymore because they're an inch too big. And also, after about 15 years, one thing that Louis Vuitton did wrong on the bag was they used some rubber that disintegrated after about 15 years. So they start coming apart, people freak out, and they don't want to pay to have them repaired, so they'll sell them for nothing. Ironically enough, you can take the bags, take off the rubber bumpers that come with the bags, and suddenly they're an inch shorter, and suddenly they're actually carry-on size again. So it's kind of an odd, one of the few advantages to buying used, other than saving money, is you can actually get a bag that the older, if you buy this brand new off the Louis Vuitton floor, is not actually airline compliant, but the older one is because the rubber bumpers can come off. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you can always give me a call. My number is just right below, but you can always give us a call. We're in the Oklahoma City area. If you're not sure about your bag, we can authenticate bags. Obviously, we charge for it. But, if you stop by one of our estate sales and you're not sure, I'll be happy to take a look at it if I have time. So it's kind of a little perk to coming to one of our estate sales and getting to know us. I do try to help people. We have people all the time who stop by and ask me questions about things. And if you are in the area, feel free to stop by. Our website's jamesbeanestatesales.com, and we do sales almost every single weekend, and we would love to help you out.